Well, welcome everybody to the first podcast of BanTR. It's taken us a long time to get here. And the team and I unanimously decided that for the first couple podcasts, we wanted to bring on good friends of mine. And on today's podcast, we have a very good friend of mine for over 20 years now, Mr. Anthony Miller. He played in the NFL for a decade, and he's also a 5-time Pro Bowler over his career. Welcome, Anthony.
Thank you. Thanks a lot for having me on, Rob.
What was the difference for you playing when you played on 3 different teams? You actually got to play with John Elway, but when you were on the Chargers, I think you had multiple quarterbacks. What was it like playing with a Hall of Famer versus an average quarterback?
Well, the difference is, and it's so funny, I'm glad you asked that question, because me playing with the quarterbacks that I did have, I love Jim McMahon. I mean, he taught me a lot my second year in the league. But when I would go to the Pro Bowls and I would play with Warren Moon, I would play with Dan Marino, you would see the difference in Jim Kelly when you get these experienced quarterbacks where you're in the huddle and you might have one play, he might tell you run a different route, something that I wasn't really used to because whatever play we had, we usually ran that play and you had to do the same thing. And sometimes bringing in the play, if that quarterback didn't like it, he's like, forget it, I'm going to run something different. I had never experienced that until I went to the Pro Bowl. And then seeing the type of quarterbacks that we had then, I could tell the big difference. I wish I got a chance to play with these guys early in my career, which I did get a chance to play with John Elway and Troy Aikman later in my career. But if I would have had a chance to play with these guys early in my career and play with one quarterback, it's a big difference because you built that chemistry. It's like you guys are Siamese twins. You know, when you look at them, you guys are right on target. Certain things, you know that, okay, he's going to come to me. So I got to work this guy and get open, where sometimes when I was playing with John, I was a little bit relaxed because I didn't know if he was going to come to me or not, So it's just building that chemistry.
You, to this day, I believe, are still the all-time in a season record holder for the Denver Broncos for receiving touchdowns in a season. What was that season like between you and John?
That's when I was like, I felt we had more chemistry. I wish that I had more catches. That was the thing about when I went down to Denver, my catches dropped. My yards per average went up, but I felt I can catch the ball anywhere on the field. I can catch them long, cross the middle, short, and make big plays. I felt that at the time when I was with Denver, I never got those opportunities. We had a great cast when it comes to receivers. We had Ed McCaffrey, we had Rod Smith, and we had Shannon Sharp.
Yeah.
And we had a heck of a running game with TD in the back.
Terrell
Davis. So, and you got a great quarterback. Bar none, out of all the quarterbacks I played with, John Elway was definitely the best quarterback I played with. I just didn't get that many opportunities with it. With John, it's a trip because you can run your route and then all of a sudden you're thinking he might be sacked. And next thing you know, he's running out. Now you got to break your route off and run, try to find the open spot. That was something I wasn't really used to. And I remember one time I'm probably like 50 yards down the field and I thought he had got sacked because as a receiver, when a lot of times you don't even see the quarterback, you just see a ball coming in the air. And next thing you know, he rolls out and he's scrambling and he hits me on a line 50 yards. And it's funny because in Denver, the ball is like sizzling. When it comes, it's like pow, So it's like, man, this is a lot different because, like I said, with John, the play is not over, and he tells you, hey, the play is not over until it's over. I'm going to tell you, that's a good question because I would laugh because I've been on both sides. And I would remember when I would come up to Denver, because they were in our conference. So my first 6 years, I would go up there. And I was always, as soon as I come in and warm up, I always run a lap around the field. In Denver, I remember the first time, I got like halfway and I'm tired. I'm like, whoa. So I'm like, well, I won't be doing that. And being on the reverse side playing with Denver, it was so crazy because you can see them sucking air, and I'm in great shape after training up in Denver and watching these dudes, and I'm laughing because it would be so funny because when we be running goals and certain things, I was like, I could tell he was on his knee. Let's go after him. Go after him. He's tired, and the other thing, a part of it would be coming down and playing the Raiders or playing against the Chargers or other teams. You don't get tired. You'll be in the fourth quarter and you feel like you're in the first quarter. It's you can tell the difference. And you don't get used to it in 2 days. It's going to at least take you a week or so to get used to the thin air. That's why you hear about boxers going up to Colorado Springs and certain places to get in good shape, because it definitely would get you in great shape.
Floyd would do that. He would train in altitude. Manny in the Philippines had a place called Baguio City, which has almost the exact same elevation as Colorado. He would train there for 7-8 weeks.
Hey, we want to just thank you so much for listening to the BanTR podcast. Now, this is just the beginning, and we have a lot of guests lined up. So if you're enjoying the content, make sure to follow us on social media, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok, and also share this thing out, and let's really grow it. So thanks again, and back to the podcast.
My rookie year, I thought if you made the 53 players, you're on the team. And so we were doing the season. We had the 53, and I think it was probably a month into the season. It was a guy that played defensive back. One of the guys said, "Oh, Dale got released," and I'm like, "What you mean he got released?" "Oh, yeah, well, he's gone." I said, "Oh, when he coming back?" "Oh no, he got cut. Like, he gone." And I'm like, "What?" He's like, "Yeah, another guy came and replaced him." So that's what put me more on point. Like, you can get cut at any time, And then the funniest thing, I had hurt my hamstring my first year. And I'm the first rounder. And I'm thinking, like, the head coach would come by, "Hey, you can't make the club in the tub." And I'm over there going at the trainer like, "Man, I got to get my hamstring right so I can make this team." And I end up rushing back, hurting it again. I was like, "Dude, he keep messing with me, talking about I got to make the club, I got to make the team." He's like, "Hey, calm down, Rick. You're the first rounder. You're going to be on the team." But I always was like that. My whole 10 years, I always was thinking like, okay, somebody trying to take my job. So I got to always be on top of my game. It made me work harder. So when it comes to these guys getting cut, man, it's funny. At first, it was like, man, it was kind of hard. It was kind of hard on you at first because you get to know these guys, you meet their families and everything. But then when you start finding out that's part of the business, dudes be like, leaving and there's like, "All right, man, you just like say, all right, I'll talk to you later, man. You're gone. They gone. They're cut." And another funny thing, this thing happened with Yancey Thinkpen. He was on our team. He was one of the receivers, and he was a third rounder. He wasn't doing that well. And at this time, I was more established and knew the game, and he was young, and he was like, "Man, they're going to end up cutting me." I said, "Man, let me just tell you something. They got 29 other teams," because at that time it was 30 teams. I said, "Man, don't worry about it." Funny, 2 years later, me and him playing in a Pro Bowl together, laughing. He went to Pittsburgh. So, you never know. Once you get cut, there's other teams out there. You're just blessed to be that 1% anyway. We all know the big show is the NFL, but if you can play over there in Canadian, the XFL, just giving them an opportunity to play a game, which we call it's a dream. It's a blessing to play in this game. It's a fun game. It can create a lot of things after you finish playing football. The one subject that I've been really frustrated through my whole career is why the Chargers won't put me in the Ring of Fame. A guy that played 6 years for him and been to 4 Pro Bowls. I don't think any receiver or any really besides Junior Seau that has done that. So that's one of the things that has been bothering me. That is like the one sleeper thing that I really want is to be put in their Ring of Fame, and I think I deserve it. And the craziest thing, I'm getting older and older. A lot of my teammates, some have passed, some as far as the concussion with Billy Ray Smith and Gary Plummer, these guys have really took the bad part of the football, because some of these guys, they don't even know you. They come up to you and they're smiling, but they really don't even know who you are because of the concussion thing that's going on nowadays.
The only time in my life that I personally got to meet Junior Seau was with you. And I went to the Chargers alumni dinner the night before they retired Junior Seau's jersey. I was really shocked that evening because when Junior went to give his speech, I was blown away that Junior Seau spoke very highly of you, about being the offensive MVP and how he was a defensive MVP. That blew me away because it's the first time that I got to hear of a different Hall of Famer speak highly of a friend that I've known for many years. Touch on that night with Junior and how you guys played together for so many years.
Yeah, I got an opportunity to play with, I consider, one of the best linebackers, football players to ever play the game. I watched him practice every day for 4 years, and how he practiced was how he played. That was a sad day when he passed away, because I know what type of person he was, on top of the crazy things that, you go through. I have a funny incident that happened with Junior when the first time I hung out with Junior. We were in, I was running the NFL Fastest Man in Palm Springs. And at the time, I didn't even know he was there. He was at his agent house, and they were having a barbecue, and I was invited over there. And I see Junior, and I said, "Hey, Junior, you, what's up, man? We should hang out. What you doing tonight?" He said, "Nothing." So we ended up going to a club. It was called Pompey's at the time, a club that was going off in Palm Springs. And I'm hanging out with him. It's just me and him. And we get some stupid hardhead guys heckling him. And they were about his size. And they're saying all kinds of stuff. And Junior, I never hung out with Junior, And Junior said, "I'm about tired of this. Hey, let's go outside." I'm like, "Hold up, there's 3 of them." And where I come from, you got to fight too, And I'm like, "Man, please." I'm like, no, don't worry about it. No. Let's go outside. And as we got almost to the door, Junior turned around and knocked this dude cold out. I mean, he hit the floor and bounced like Roy Jr. in that time he got knocked out the first time. And he said, "All right, who's next?" They start grabbing him, getting back, and I'm like, my thing was like, okay, this is our time to exit. Hey, come on, Junior, let's get it. We got to get out of here. So we take off. And the funniest thing, all I'm thinking about is like when as a rookie, when we get to camp, who gonna mess with Junior? Because usually, as a rookie, they always mess with the rookie guys. All right, you got to do this. You can't do this. Make them do this crazy stuff. I'm like, all right, I'm gonna get my popcorn ready because I know he's finna knock somebody out. And it was so funny. Nobody messed with Junior his rookie year. He would do, if he asked, he would do it if he wants to do it. Otherwise, he wasn't going to do it. And I, like I said, I was waiting for someone to get knocked out, and nobody did. And I could tell you how strong this dude is because I seen him with my own eyes. I seen him get in a fight and pull off a dude's face mask. Pull it smooth off. And I said, man, you got to be really strong.
This podcast is sponsored by Elite Pro Gen. They have a wide variety of CBD and recovery products. So if you're in pain, if you're getting back to working out, or if you're getting a little older and you need that extra push, try Elite Pro Gen, a new level of recovery. Now back to the podcast.
I think the Broncos probably should be going a different route. I don't think Russell Wilson is the answer. He was a great quarterback when he played with Seattle, but I don't think he's the same quarterback that they had in Seattle that they have now with the Broncos.
Speaking of Russell, have you seen or heard, and I want to ask you this because of your time in the NFL, if you had a player the same way that I'm reading and learning about. I watched interviews on 2 famous people that both won a Super Bowl with Russell. One was Marshawn Lynch and the other was Sherman. And both individuals spoke very in detail in regards to how Russell is in real life and as a teammate. And I played sports, never on your guys' level, of course, but I never realized that a teammate can be so petty. Like with Russell, do you know that the guys were not even allowed to talk to Russell? They weren't even allowed to text Russell, call him on a cell phone. They had to go through his agents if they even wanted to speak with him. They weren't even allowed to talk with him. Like, how can you build a championship team if you can't even talk to your teammate?
You know, the craziest thing is I heard about that. Even nowadays, I heard the same thing. You know, Seattle really should have beat the Patriots that year. You know, when you got a running back that's probably one of the best short yardage running back in the league, you're supposed to win.
Yeah.
You know, I happen to have my wide receiver coach was their wide receiver, Kippy Brown, at that time. And what I heard was that when it comes to Russell Wilson, he thinks he's the smartest guy in the room. And sometimes when you're playing with teams like that, you guys got to all be on the same page. You know, I've never heard of some of the things that you're saying with a teammate where you can't call them, you got to talk to your agent. That's totally different. I can understand if it was an outsider, but when you get inside, you guys got to look like brothers. That, to me, that don't seem like a brother.
Yeah, I fully agree. I couldn't imagine anybody winning on that level. If you can't even talk to your team captain and your quarterback, that blew me away. Listening to them and watching Marshawn Lynch and Sherman go into detail, that really did blow me away. And to me, that's probably one of the reasons why they probably moved on from him.
Oh, yeah. The funniest thing, it didn't seem like Sherman had any good things to talk about.
No.
They seem like, because they probably are still pissed off because they should have had 2 Super Bowl rings instead of 1.
Marshawn's been very vocal about that. He's been very vocal. They should have. Never, especially a guy that averaged, and I don't remember the statistic, but between 3 to 4 yards on the average just short yard run, you're 1 yard away and you throw it. That blew everybody away.
Yeah, I think their coach tried to cover up on that. I think he called an audible, and he shouldn't have. And the coach tucked it on the chin, said that he did it. That's what I think. I don't know what the true story is. You know, I think that if Marshawn Lynch gets the ball and scores, he's the MVP of the game.
100%.
And they wanted to get, and Russell wanted to be the MVP, so he wanted to try to make a big play, and it backfired. And that's probably about, out of any other time, it's been a regular season game, a little different, but a Super Bowl, and like I said, they haven't been back since. So I think they've been bitter about that. And those guys are, now that they're not playing for the organization, they're letting it out.
What do you think of today's game's quarterbacks? I think that now in today's game, the younger kids like Burrows, Lawrence from Jacksonville, you have a lot of kids that are really good. You got even Justin, quarterback from the Chargers. He's a stud. These guys can really throw the ball.
These quarterbacks, compared to my quarterbacks, they're more athletic. They're actually more black quarterbacks too. They run different types of offense that is geared towards a running quarterback and passing quarterback. But what I look at today's and looking at some of these quarterbacks, it seems like a lot of the guys have stuff in common and they can talk to the quarterbacks. Back when I played, it don't seem like it was like the quarterbacks were ahead of everybody, but it seemed like now they're approachable. You can talk to them. With us, it didn't seem like we can really talk to these quarterbacks and hang out with them. It seemed like they're more on the same length, is right next to the quarterbacks where they can talk to, even though they still make the big money, and these other guys are making good money too. But I just think that they can communicate with them a lot better.
Sets him up at the 9. First and goal. Pacheco cuts it outside. Tries to do it a second time. And he lost the football.
It wasn't one-sided at all. I mean, it surprised me that 49ers did lose that game, because I was more pushing towards the 49ers. Only thing that I was worried about was their quarterback because of the experience, but he actually played a pretty good game. They made a couple of stuff that hurt him on special teams with the punt, but otherwise they were in that game. And then there was another thing that I didn't know until we were watching the game was the overtime. The flip of the coin, I thought it was still on the old rules. You know, if you go down and score a touchdown, the game is over. And it was totally different. And me, as a guy that played the game, the rules are now if you score a touchdown, you still get the ball. So you give Mahomes 4 downs instead of 3 downs. You ain't stopping Mahomes with 4 downs. And that was the case in that game, and that was kind of like the difference.
This next segment is with NBA player and champion with the Houston Rockets. He has so much experience and knowledge to share, and he's played with and against so many of the greats. Here's Rob introducing Mr. Tracy Murray.
This is a very good friend of mine, Mr. Tracy Murray. Played 12, 14 years?
12 years.
12 years in the NBA.
And then 3 over in Europe.
3 over in, you played, I think you played in Greece at one time, is that correct?
Played in Greece for 2 years and France for 1.
So let's jump in, man. March is known for one thing. We all know, March Madness. So what college teams are you excited to watch? And big question, who do you think got the ship this year?
The best chance.
I don't know, man. It's hard to hang a hat on 1 or 2 teams because, it's whoever gets a nice run, it's like an 8-game sprint. And then whoever is playing at the best and whoever is healthy at the time, that's who's going to win it. Look at UConn's run last year. No one saw that one coming. So, it's you knew they were solid. You knew they were good. They said, well, Arkansas. And then they said, well, Houston. There were a bunch of teams they were throwing out there. And then, here comes UConn. And they get crowned. So, I think UConn has a shot. Purdue has a shot. Tennessee has a shot, Kansas has a shot. It just depends on, North Carolina has a shot. It depends on who, how they're playing and how healthy they are. We can even take it a couple of steps further. Let's take it back to the COVID year. Who expected UCLA to go to the Final Four? We were a buzzer beater away from being in the championship. Who saw that coming? We were in the play-in game. Who saw that coming? It's about how you playing.
Yeah.
True. And that's why, March Madness as a whole, it's so amazing because all of
That's why it's called March Madness.
Right. All of these Cinderella teams, you would never think. Who else? Like Florida Atlantic. Teams like that.
But you know why they're effective, right? Because of the transfer portal, the COVID years. You got a lot of older players that are playing. A lot of freshmen are not getting much time. They're not even recruiting the way they used to recruit anymore, like through the high school. They're recruiting through the transfer portals. JC guys, they're going to lower D2, D3 guys that are effective. There was, like last night, Washington State had a guy that played in D2, and he's playing for them, and he was the one of the main guys. So, it's about how you're playing. People give you a shot. Derek White was a D2. He led the D2 in scoring before he went to Colorado. Now he's in the league. So it's crazy how that happens. I never in my life thought that I would see people transferring to their rivals. It's crazy. Like you'll have, there was one girl that played for UCLA a couple years ago, transferred to USC. And then you got some people that played at University of Arizona, moved to Arizona State. It's like, how are you moving to your rivals? I never thought I saw that one coming.
What to you makes a championship team? Like, what are the difference makers?
Well, you got to have a great coach. You have to have a great coach. But you have to have a team that's willing to play good, hard-nosed team defense, because defense wins championships. And this is an offensive player saying that. But you have to have 2 or 3 guys that can go get you a bucket at any time. The most important piece to that is a point guard. If you have a point guard that can control the tempo, can make plays, and nobody can stay in front of them, that's hard to guard. It's easier on the guys that can put the ball in the hole. So, multiple scorers, a defensive-minded team, and a point guard is the most important thing.
And what current team in the NBA is the closest, do you think?
I would say Denver and Boston. Denver and Boston. That might be the finals right there. Denver and Boston, because I haven't watched a lot this year, but Denver, they won. Their experience. They got Joker who can make plays. They got Jamal Murray who can make plays. All of their role players are getting better. You know, every year they gain more experience. And then you got Boston, who's hungry. They've been like scratching and clawing. Their window has been open for a while. You know, if Porzingis can stay healthy, that window might stay open. You know, another thing that you know I didn't mention, this is the Clippers' window. Their window is wide open. This is go time for them. If they're going to win a championship, it's got to be this year or next year, or else it's a wrap. Because guys getting older, they look like they're all in shape. They have great chemistry. They all like to play with each other. You know, defense is going to be key with them. You know, they got a good mixture of young guys and older guys, and they have some bigs that can clog up the lanes. So the Clippers are somebody that you can seriously consider too. You know, and that's hard coming from a Laker, but yeah, but the Clippers look really good. I'm gonna change it up. You know, even though Denver's the championship team, the defending champions, you might want to say the Clippers on the West and Boston on the East.
Let's dig into greatness in a player, right? Mm-hmm. So, you know, growing up, you always want to study legends. Mm-hmm. And for me, I would always, you know, study the main names. And Hakeem has always been that name there, but not a lot of information about him. But whenever you would watch him, he's dominant as hell.
You see, I'm shaking my head, right?
Yeah.
Like, I saw my championship year with them, I saw pure dominance in a way that I'd never seen before. Like, I've never seen a guy that felt like he was still playing at MVP level, by the way. He got the MVP the year before, didn't get it that year because, you know, we were the lowest seed to ever win a world championship. We were 6th seed, so we weren't playing well throughout the season. So David Robinson gets the MVP. And Kenny Smith was hyping him up like a prize, like this was a prize fight, like Muhammad Ali was going to a prize fight. And he told Kenny, don't worry about it. From the tip-off in that San Antonio series to the end, I've never seen a one-way butt kicking like that, ever. I mean, he was just pure dominant throughout the whole playoffs. But that particular series, what he did to David Robinson, who was the MVP at that time, and Dave is great. I've never seen nothing like that before. Never. I mean, he's the like I played with a lot of greats. I played with Clyde. I played with Vince Carter. I played with Hakeem. I done played with some Hall of Famers now. So I've seen greatness. I played with Chris Webber. You know, I've seen greatness. I played with Ben Wallace. You know, for him to do what he did from the way he came in, I've seen greatness. But Hakeem, I played with Kobe and Shaq. I've seen greatness. But what Hakeem did, that run was incredible.
And how was he at practice? What did he work on? Like, what made him so good?
Kevin Garnett told this story. You know, he's talking about how he's like Hakeem talks trash. He's talking about lateral movement, right? Whenever he would always want to play one-on-one with somebody at the end of practice, right? So his way of saying he wants to play one-on-one is like, "Hey, Trace, come on over here. Let me test your lateral movement." You know, and it's funny, you know, and he want to test you out. You know, it's no fun in games. He want to test you out. You know, and you learn so much from playing somebody that great one-on-one, regardless of his size. He had the athleticism to stay in front of you, to contest shots, to put the ball on the floor and get by you, and strong enough to pound you and put it over the top. You know, I mean, talking about somebody that was a really complete player, man. Hakeem Olajuwon.
I want to ask you a question. You're talking about greats right now, and this is, I've never asked you this question. You've played with a lot of great players in your day. I'm just going to name, of course, I know Hakeem. Of course, I know Kobe Bryant. And I'm also going to throw Michael Jordan in there. I'm talking the Wizards era. Okay? So you've got, to me, as an outsider, got to play with three of some of the greatest players in the history.
I never played with Mike. I played against Mike, but being on the floor against him, I mean, just to see what he did at the end of his career with another franchise. I mean, he still got some 50 balls at his age, right? So it's like he may not have had that Chicago Bulls 23 fear with people, but people still feared him. You know, he was a little bit older, a little bit heavier, but he still had, like, he would still score the ball on you. He was still Mike. He was still MJ. You know, and talking about somebody that was a killer, man. I'll never forget the Space Jam runs. Like, I was there every day, man. And days that it wasn't crowded full of players and it was a little thin in there, you know, I got a chance to get my butt kicked by Michael Jordan. You know, and it's an education. You know, they always say ass whoopings is the biggest education, right? And I got stitched up in there, you know, but then after a while you start giving it back a little bit. You know, after the Space Jam runs and working with Mike every day in that gym, I couldn't help but be confident and have the best year of my career the year after.
What were the little details that you kind of picked up from Michael's game?
He's a worker, man. Like, that's one thing Mike and Kobe had in common. They were great, but they were the hardest workers too. You're not outworking those guys. They're not going to allow it. They're not going to. If you're trying to outlast them in the gym, you're not. If you're going to try to work harder than them in the gym, you're not. On the court, you're not. Like, I figured that out with Kobe. Like, that year, I just kept. I'm normally one of the first ones in the practice facility. I've always kind of wanted to do that. You know, be the first one there, work on a few things, get my weightlifting done. If I had any injuries, go get treatment. So I was coming off of an arthroscopic hip surgery my 10th year going to the Lakers. So I was still starting off kind of behind the eight ball. You know, I decided to go through training camp with them. And so I probably shouldn't have. But I'm either going to go through training camp and be with the guys and go through the grind, or I'm going to sit on the side on a bike and not really be part of the guys. You know, I'd rather go through and be a part of the guys and not be 100% than to be the guy sitting on the side that everybody's talking about, like, man, when is he going to get off that bike and play, right? So I say about 30 games in, I'm like, he's always here before me. I'm going to try to beat him to the gym. So practice was at 11. So I've been in there a couple times at 8 o'clock. So I see him in there. I hear the ball bouncing. He's dripping sweat. He's in there with his trainer, his individual trainer, doing off-season workouts during the season, throwing medicine balls to the ceiling. I'm like, this dude is crazy. You know, he's doing off-season. But then you wonder why he lasts so long. He's still fresh in the postseason. That's the reason why. So I'm like, all right, I'm going to get here at 7. That didn't work. I'm going to get here at 6. That didn't work. So I'm like, man, what time did you get here? You know, because when I walked in at 6 and I see him dripping wet, you know he's been there a while. So I waited until he had a break and he drinking his drink, and I'm, dude, what time did you get here? Like, I got here at 3:30. 3:30? I was like, you win. You win, huh? 3:30, you got me beat. You know, but that's what makes these guys great. And this is one thing about the greats. A lot of them don't sleep. A lot of them don't sleep. I never played with Mike, but I heard he didn't sleep. Kobe, he either slept early or didn't sleep. Shaq didn't sleep. Strick didn't sleep. Like, the greats don't sleep. And they come out there and give you triple doubles and 60 and 81 and Like, how do they do that? How do you have the energy to do that? In an 82 game grind, But the great ones don't sleep, man. They eat, sleep, shit, dream basketball, man. It's like the game is on their mind. They're not. They're focused. They're locked in.
When you were in high school, when's the first time you met Shaquille O'Neal?
At the McDonald's All-American game.
So that's what I figured.
Yeah.
Remember you telling me that?
We were all here about each other. It wasn't like the internet. Like now, everybody's got an eye on each other. Everybody's like, okay, I see what he's doing over there. No one. And then I'm gonna have to just break down the whole landscape. We went to Nike camp that summer. The Texas players were not allowed to go. They weren't even allowed to go to AAU tournaments that we were in. So we didn't know anything coming from Texas until they got there. Matt Winstrom. He was a big guy coming out of Texas that, he was on my team in the McDonald's game along with Shaq. The only time I really saw Shaq was when they were highlighting the McDonald's All-American team, and he was just dunking on everybody. I'm like, that big monster is going to be in our game? And then when I first met him, man, we hit it off right away. Just a big, giant kid, man, loved to play. Out there like Hakeem, out there playing people one-on-one, showing his handles like, I can handle the ball because I'm big, I can handle it. And I just love Shaq from the beginning, man. We've always been cool. Talking about somebody now, I never played. Of course, I never played against Wilt Chamberlain, but you look at somebody like that, and he was the most dominant person in his time, right? Probably in the history of the game. You got to throw Shaq up there too. As far as people were, he was dominant. Nobody can. When he got mad, just get out of the way, because he's taking you up on his shoulders with him, and he's bringing that rim down. You saw he brought rims down.
Yeah,
literally. Like that monster right there, you did not want to make mad. If you kept hacking him up, before you know it, somebody's catching an elbow sandwich and somebody's going up on his shoulders with him to the rim, and you're not stopping him. You're not stopping him. He can do whatever he wants when he wants to do it.
He said he'll score like 45 a game easy in today.
Who will?
Shaq.
Shaq?
Yeah.
You can't touch anybody. Could you imagine Michael Jordan if you couldn't touch Michael Jordan? Yeah. Like Michael Jordan, there was Jordan rules. He was getting clotheslined, and the Detroit Pistons was trying to take him out, and the Boston Celtics was trying to take him out, and Kurt Rambis got clotheslined. It's like, it was a different game. It was way more physical than it is now. Like if somebody face up, you can't touch them. It's a foul. It's like it. Like I saw it change throughout the years. In that era, you can put two hands on people. Derek Harper was controlling people with his hand. Point guards with his hands. It was really physical. Then I saw it go to one hand check. Then it went to the hand and the forearm. Then it went to just the forearm. Now you can't touch them.
This podcast is sponsored by SSI Media, a world of better storytelling, providing content and advertising strategy for businesses and personal brands, because in today's media landscape, consistency isn't enough. Now back to the show.
I watched the most recent All-Star game that just happened about 2 weeks ago. And it's funny you say that, because for me, I'm just a fan, as you know. Mm-hmm. I watched that game, and it was probably the worst basketball I've ever seen in my life, because it was the first time that I've seen NBA All-Stars. Mm-hmm. Not one person played defense. Everybody took the shot up. And what did I think the statistic? They threw up almost 200 shots of three-pointers. I think it was like 196, 195, 194, where they broke the record in a game for most threes. Mm-hmm. My point being nobody played defense. They're just letting these guys shoot from everywhere. It was the worst professional basketball I've ever seen. And I'm not talking about the NBA players, because it's a different game than today's game, but they made it so unentertaining. Mm-hmm. That's what I'm talking about. It's not fun to watch guys just shoot, because I could go to a gym and watch guys shoot. I
haven't watched the All-Star game in about 5 or 6 years, to be honest with you. I heard about it, and you putting up that many points, as great as these guys are, and you put them that many points, you know there's no defense being played. But I grew up watching Dr. J. I grew up watching Magic and Bird and Isaiah and Neek. Those guys competed in All-Star games. There was, and back then the salaries wasn't as big. So that bonus, people were going after that bonus. There was bonus for the team winning. There was a bonus for an MVP. There were bonuses and incentives. So, people, it was worth a lot back then. Guys needed it. But there's so much money now, man. Who needs that little incentive to compete and win? And when you worry about trying to get a championship, guys' focuses are different now. So now you got the in-season tournament. You didn't have that before. So they're asking a lot out of these guys, but they're gonna have to find a way, to compete a little bit more in the All-Star game if they want to keep it around, because people are going to start losing interest soon.
I lost complete interest over this year, and I'm being dead serious on that. As a guy that's followed the NBA ever since I was a little kid, it was so distasteful to watch the game just 2 weeks ago. It was sad.
Well, as I say again, I didn't get to see it, but these guys, they can compete without hurting each other. They can you can play ball and know when to let them go. I think they need to step it up a little bit when it comes to the competing. But at the end of the day, I have all the respect for those guys. I've never been an all-star, so I just want to put that out there. I shot in the 3-point contest one year and I had fun, but it's an honor to be an all-star. It's an honor to be a part of All-Star Weekend. Just go out there and entertain the whole weekend.
What do you think of this? Because this is one positive thing that I found out of this year's NBA All-Star Game that the NBA did that I like is they took male versus female, where they took Sabrina versus Steph, and they did a 3-point contest for the first time in NBA history. Now, as a male, up until this last several years, and including my time when I played basketball back in the day, I will admit I was a little rough on females because I didn't like females playing basketball with me. I was a male that thought I was an alpha male that didn't want to play against girls. Well, now you have younger girls, and especially I'm going to use your daughter, your brother Cameron's daughter. These girls are learning. They're playing AAU basketball underneath Prodigy, your guys' program, but they're being taught the right way. Now that you have girls playing basketball and the girls' basketball game is coming up every year, what's your opinion on the Sabrina versus Steph? Is that good look for the NBA All-Star?
I think it's a great look. I've always been about women's sports anyway, because my mom was an athlete. So, she fought for Title IX and all of that stuff. So, I come from a very athletic family. So, I watched my mom play volleyball. I watched her play softball. I watched her, try to, make a comeback and throw the javelin. She wanted to try to go to the Olympics and do that. So I saw a pure athlete out of my mom. So to see how far women's sports have come, and now you kind of intertwining it during All-Star Weekend, you give them that platform to say, hey, see us too.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, hey, we can play too. And I coached in the WNBA one year with the Tulsa Shock. So, I was in there practicing with them, at times where maybe some injuries or whatever. So, I know that they can play. I grew up, hey, Cheryl Miller was one of the best players I've ever seen. And I've been on the court with her. She can play. I've watched Cynthia Cooper for years. Cheryl Swoops. I know all of these ladies, man. It's like Lisa Leslie, I grew up with that. She was playing pickup games with us. So everybody I named played pickup games with. Tina Thompson's like my little sister, man. All of these ladies have played pickup games with us. Teresa Edwards is a Hall of Famer. She's like my sister. She's the one that hired me for Tulsa. Like, I went to Cuba with them, because I was on the Pan American team in '91, and we're down there with the ladies too. So I have the utmost respect for women's sports.
He's leaving, in my opinion, two people out, but I want to
No,
say this.
DT.
No. Yeah, Diana's one of them.
Yeah, DT.
But
I'm not leaving
also,
her out. I was just throwing people that I played
Yeah,
with out there.
I know, but he's also forgetting somebody important. And actually, because I've known her for over 30 years, is his wife.
My wife. Yeah.
So a true.
But she never played in the W.
True.
But she's a reference. She's a college official. You know, you want people who've played D1 basketball. She went to Pitt. You want people who played D1 basketball or high level basketball to be an official. They know the flow of the game. You know what I'm saying? So I wasn't leaving her out. I was just mentioning WNBA players that I played against. You know what I mean? But yeah, I'm not discounting those two because they're Chino Hill products too.
And
so
the reason why I threw their names out there, so you know from me, is you're right.
I already know it.
I would never let girls play with me, but a true story, at LA Fitness back in the day when I was younger and played ball, his wife, Alicia, and then DT, Diana Taurasi, were the only two girls that I ever let play with me at that gym. I hated playing against women. And it wasn't anti. I have a daughter now, so I'm glad I grew up having a daughter, played sports. It opened up my world to that girls can actually play sports too. So I wanted to hear that because honestly, his wife, man, she can ball.
Yeah, she can shoot it.
She can shoot three. Even in high school, when we were in high school,
she can shoot it.
She can shoot threes like no other, man. And I think even you told me she did or still holds a record for University of Pitt for shooting threes, doesn't she?
I don't know that fact. But she was all Big East.
Yeah,
she was a player, man. Shoot the ball, shoot it. Like when I see my daughter play, and I see her shoot, like they look similar. You know, they're like, hey, but that looks like. No, she looks a little bit more like my wife. You know, I don't know if it's the mannerisms. I don't know if it's, you know, the facial expressions, but she reminds me, you know, of my wife when she's playing.
So since you have such vast knowledge of women's sports, right, and of women's basketball in particular, so I was on the same boat for a while, layups and turnovers is what you hear and stuff like that. But
that drove me crazy as a coach because they're trying to be entertained. They can't dunk, right?
Yeah.
Well, they're starting to dunk now, but so they're trying to throw that thread the needle pass that Magic Johnson would throw, but you like, what did you see?
Yeah.
You know, that was driving me crazy in Tulsa. What were you looking at, right? But you know, as fundamentally sound. As hard as they play, they will dive on the floor, dive in the stands. You know, they want to win. I mean, the energy and the effort that they play with, man, it's just refreshing.
They were pitching the whole narrative this year that the Las Vegas Aces, this year's team, was the best team in women's basketball history, which is kind of big to say, you know? Yeah. So what is your opinion on? Have you seen them play for one?
I don't know if they could have beaten that Houston Comet team. The four-peat Houston Comet team. I don't know if they could have beaten them. It was Tina Thompson. It was Cynthia Cooper.
That's what I was thinking.
It was Cheryl Swoops, and the role players that they had too. And they had a really good point guard with Kim Peratt. Like they had players. Remember what I said? You got to be able to play defense. They played defense. You got to be able to have three people that can put the ball in the hole. They had three people, and then they had a point guard. They four-peated.
Yeah, they were the first four WNBA champs.
Hey, and they had to play against the New York Liberty, who had a really good team.
And Sparks.
And the Sparks had a really good team.
Yeah, Lisa Leslie back then.
And so they had to go through the Sparks to get to the Liberty. It's like, come on, man. You know, they act like the beginning that like they couldn't play or something. Like that's what kills me about, you know, maybe some comments from some people who are analysts now when they was talking about, I think it was JJ Redick saying, you know, Bob Cousy and them was playing against plumbers. It's like, don't disrespect those guys like that, man. It's like these guys paved the way for us. You know what I mean? It's like I would never look at those guys like that. They're greats, man. You know, they're Hall of Famers. We're not Hall of Famers. Why are we talking about them like that? That makes no sense to me. But, you know, it's like those are the ones at the beginning the first few years of the WNBA, man, they opened up the doors. They made it possible for these ladies to come through and do what they do. They looked up to those ladies, you know? And the way they're playing now, they're playing more and more like dudes every day, which I love. The athleticism is getting better. The handles and just breaking people down and going. And it's like, a basketball player to me is a basketball player. If you can hoop, you can hoop, male or female. My niece right now is kicking everybody's ass in the spring league. And she's a 6th grader, and she's playing with eighth grade boys. And she's in there kicking ass with, like...
She's a starting point guard for
honestly, when she played for her brother's team, when she plays on the team, everybody else plays better on the team. Because she knows how to distribute and find people when they're open. Nobody can stay in front of her. She knows how to handle the ball and without people stealing the ball. And then the ball goes through the net. She's right there in the guy's ass that's about to get the ball. She's pressuring him 94 feet. And she's not the biggest girl in the world. She's just got a big heart and a high basketball IQ and the want to be great. I call her the machine because she refuses to lose at anything. If we're running these hills on Tuesday, she's first. We're running 17s in practice, she's first. Like, she refuses to lose, male or female on the floor. She's not gonna lose. And that's when you have that, you know, you have that drive, and then you have the poise, and it's like a zen about herself, to where I call her stone-faced killer too, because she does it without expression. She's not hit a three-pointer and throw up stuff, and you know, she's not celebrating. She hits a three, she's right in your ass. And it's like, I love that she's a throwback.
One of the things that I wanted to jump into after listening to Tracy, one thing that I've learned from Tracy and from his brother Cameron, they have their own AAU program, which you guys will be hearing a lot, called Prodigy. Mm-hmm. These two guys, Cameron and Tracy, have given younger kids the blueprint. And when I mean the blueprint, they're teaching them on levels that I never saw, that I wish. And I even said this to Cameron, his brother, just a week ago. I yelled at Cameron and said, man, if you would have hit me when my son was playing for you guys 15 years ago, even more, I would have made sure that my son was at Prodigy 7 days a week instead of 1 or 2 days a week. I'm saying that because listen to Tracy right here. One thing that they currently have. Now, it's very hard to make the NBA, as everybody knows. And I've even talked to Tracy about this. Yeah. It's less than 1/10 of a percent. So not even 1%. You're talking, it's a fraction of a 1/10% of the alumni people that have played in the NBA over the years.
I'm one of 4,500 people in a 75-year history.
4,500 people, that's how little it is. And when you count the world's population of 10 billion people that we're almost at, and only 4,500 have ever played the game, that's a low statistic. Mm-hmm. Now, with that being said, going back to talking about his niece, his daughter, and about how people have to have hearts, how people have to have the IQ, I've personally witnessed with Cameron and with Tracy over the last 15 plus years of Prodigy, how well that they train these kids, how much of an IQ these kids really get, how much knowledge that they're giving them. These guys currently have, that they've trained, they currently have 3 kids in the NBA right now. Mm-hmm. 3 kids.
And we're a non-sponsored program. Yeah. We're not sponsored, we're independent.
That's another thing I was going to get at a minute ago. So it's very important that they have 3 kids that are in the NBA of only 4,500 kids total, that they have 3 kids that are in the league right now. Mm-hmm. That goes to show you of how much basketball knowledge that Tracy and Cameron have been taught in their lives throughout their journey in life. Throughout Tracy, through the NBA, every level, their knowledge is now teaching the younger generation, and it's making these kids even better. And I was shocked at how well. Go ahead.
And let's keep it all the way 100 with it. We didn't have any lottery picks. We didn't have any first rounders. We had 2 second-round picks and 1 make it as a free agent. Jordan McGlaughn is our most successful player. He made it as a free agent. He did it the hard way. Kessler Edwards was a second-rounder, and Amari Moore was a second rounder. Like, it's not like we having lottery picks and they have the luxury to have a few years to make it happen. They got to make it happen now or get cut. So if you know how to play and you play hard, and play with heart and have a high basketball IQ, and you just go out there and outwork people, you can last a little while.
So what do you focus on when it comes to, like how you were talking about the blueprint?
Mm-hmm.
Give us the blueprint, if you're cool with it.
Man, to me, it's not hard, man. It's like people don't even do the fundamentals anymore. They just skip over the fundamentals. There's no basketball camps anymore teaching these kids how to play. You got all of these trainers out here teaching these guys advanced stuff, and they don't even know how to jump stop. They travel all the time, and they got their palms up like, what do I do? You travel. You can't move both pivot feet. You have one pivot foot. You know, it's like a lot of them they just don't know, and it's not their fault. It's not their fault. I had 15 years of a basketball camp. I grew up in Michael Cooper's basketball camp, and I grew up in the Pasadena Bulldog basketball camp. I learned basic fundamentals before I even thought about an AAU program. And I worked on my game in the backyard by myself, me in a basket. I didn't need a trainer. The weekends, when we went to the gym, Pops would play pickup. After that, we're working on our stuff. You know, it's like nobody works on the basic fundamentals. Nobody watches games anymore. Watch and see what other people do and try to mimic them. That's what we did. Watch the game and break it down, like especially if you're watching your own film. Look at what you didn't do right and try to correct it. They're looking at everybody has a highlight film now, right? Like when people and parents come at me with highlight films, look, no disrespect, I don't want a highlight film. Give me a whole game. I don't care if it's the best game that they've ever had. Give me that game. I can break it down. I can tell you what they can do. I can tell you what they can't do. I can tell you what they need to improve on to get better to make it to another level. And you know, but I'm gonna tell you the biggest thing with the blueprint, and it comes from my dad. It's called honesty. Honesty. These kids are being told they're great before they're even good nowadays. They're being told they're future NBA players or first round picks before they even pick up a basketball nowadays. So how are they supposed to be good, or how are they supposed to chase greatness when they're already told they're great? They don't even have a paid due process anymore when it comes to the NBA. I had to sit on the bench for the first 3 years. I had to pay my dues. If you're a lottery pick, first round pick, you're playing now. There's no pay due process. You're not sitting there learning from a vet anymore.
You know what? That's actually a great point, because when you said that, I didn't realize that until you said that. You're right. Back in the day, guys that got drafted in the first round, they usually learn from the vets.
Unless you Shaq, you're thrown in there if you Shaq or Alonzo Mourning or somebody.
Let's look at Kobe Bryant. Kobe didn't play his first year. He sat on the bench.
Yeah, and he was mad. He was miserable.
Yeah, he didn't. He started playing more his second half of his first rookie year. That's when they start. Coach Del Harris started putting him in more.
I didn't play until somebody got hurt. Could I play? Yeah, but I'm playing on a team, and this is where you got to give the team credit, the coaches credit, the organization credit. I am playing on the Portland Trailblazers that just came from the finals with Michael Jordan. You think they're going to let me play at 20 years old? The window's open right now. We got to go chase it. They're not going to let me play. I didn't play until guys got hurt. Now, I led the league in threes my second year, you know, and that was in minimal time. But we're still chasing something. So when they got rid of Adelman and Jeff Petrie left, or whatever that situation was, and they brought PJ and the new regime in there, then that's when chasing was over, and me and Clyde went to Houston. And you know, and it's like I go from one team that's chasing to a team that just won it, and they're chasing the second one. So where am I going to play? They're not going to experiment with me right now. We're chasing something. We got Clyde for that extra shot in the arm. We got to go now. So we went and got one. Thank goodness I jumped on their shoulders and I held on tight and got a ring, you know. But it's like there was a pay due process back then.
It actually does make a lot of sense now too, because you see all of the top picks, like, you know, they go to the worst teams.
Yeah, and they let them play through their mistakes.
Yeah, you just watch them and they're like, just like this whole Wemby thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you know, the next big thing after LeBron, and then you just see his team suck every single day, and you're like, he's cool, like he can block standing straight up, but like you got to watch that.
He's a freak of nature. He might be the next guy.
You think?
Yes.
Yeah. Nice.
He's a 7'5", 7'6" Kevin Durant.
Okay. That's big.
Like he can handle his favorite player is Kevin Durant. So what do you do when with your favorite player? What do? You mimic him.
That's true.
The dude can shoot threes. The dude can ISO and make plays.
That's 7'6".
That's 7'5", 7'6". That's crazy. It's
He does make Shaq
insane.
look short. There's a picture of Shaq in Wembley,
Yo.
and Shaq looks like he's a foot shorter. It's
Yo.
crazy, even though he's
It's
not.
insane.
It looks it's insane.
It's insane to think what he can do.
Hey, we want to just thank you so much for listening to the BanTR podcast. Now, this is just the beginning, and we have a lot of guests lined up. So if you're enjoying the content, make sure to follow us on social media, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok, and also share this thing out, and let's really grow it. So thanks again, and back to the podcast.
Going back to Tracy's blueprint, I want to throw in something on there, because listening to him and when he talks about kids, I wanted to throw something in about their Prodigy program as well. As a outsider, as a parent that has your kid learning from great coaches that know the game, that know the IQ, that are teaching their kids great fundamentals and the X's and the O's of the classwork. And by I mean classwork, they teach their kids classwork. So Cam, when he's teaching kids X's and O's, he puts them in classes and teaching them about
Watch film and everything.
yeah, film.
Yeah.
They really break down the game for everybody. But it's more important than that about the kids that want to make it in today's game, because as a parent, every AAU coach and every parent that's part of AAU wants their kids to go somewhere, okay? To go play somewhere. Mm-hmm. Well, that's not always the case. But what happens,
especially nowadays,
with the Prodigy program that blew me away, because I've visited firsthand when I've been with Cameron and Tracy at gyms. When I've been to gyms with them, and I'm talking when they go watch high school teams play, there'll be college coaches from all over. If they're at that game scouting, they come up and talk to them all the time. They want to know about these kids.
What's coming down the pipeline.
Coming down the pipeline.
Yep.
So one thing that I could teach parents, if you want your kids to go play a Division I, Division II, Division III, if you want to get your kids in a program, they got to get to an AAU program like Prodigy, because they teach these kids to be good. Be good not only in basketball, but also in school. They teach them the X's and O's. What I really loved about Prodigy is, honestly, their connections. And what I mean by their connections is because Tracy and Cameron, growing up and traveling basketball around the world and playing, they've met millions of coaches and scouts and every level, everywhere. So Cameron, Tracy's brother, he helps kids in their Prodigy program get to schools. Not every single kid is going to be the next Michael Jordan, the next Kobe Bryant, or even the next Tracy Murray. But when you get kids that listen, they get them in good programs that fit their basketball game. So what that means, he said, they may not be going to top colleges like Duke and Carolina and UCLA, the top programs for the last 30, 40 years, but they get them in programs that are going to help get them a college education degree. And a program that's going to fit with them. Yep. So yeah, not every kid can make the NBA, but I like what they do with their kids, because they got kids in programs all around the country, kids that are even on nationally ranked teams. And that's what I like as a parent, is these two individuals, they help their kids become good adults and good human beings. And that's good, because most of these programs, like you heard Tracy, they're not signed with the Nikes and with the Adidases. So they get real recruits. Other people, they talk money and they just want your money. And then after high school, bye-bye, your kid's old and gone. These guys have got relationships with these kids, and they help these kids grow And I know this for a fact because I know tons of kids that played with Prodigy programs that are now in their 30s that Cameron and Tracy make sure that these guys are good adults.
We got chats with them all the time.
Yeah.
You know, where Cam checks in, I'll check in. Hey guys, you guys all right? Then everybody starts. The chat warms up a little bit. Everybody's chiming in. But we've put hundreds of kids in colleges. You know, and that's what we're trying to do. You know, that's the main focus. Make it easier on your parents. Go get a scholarship. You know, use that basketball to put you in your next phase of life. That's what it's really all about. It's not about making the NBA. If you do, that's great. That's just, you know, God bless you, man. You know, that it's just water under the bridge. You know, but to give these kids credit, those that have gone on and have made a good life out of it, they were disciplined. They listened to the honesty and didn't get hurt by it. You know, we're tough. We're an acquired taste. You know, we're not fluff over here. You know, we've had some people walk away from us because they couldn't take it. Top people, male and female, walk away because everybody told them they were so great, so much that they couldn't take, hey, you got holes in your game. You know, you can't do this, you can't do that, you can't do this, but this is what we need to work on to fix. You know, but they're told they're great already. So there's no holes. You know, and you tell them that, like, kids are so fragile nowadays, they lose their confidence. It's like, how? You brought something to the table that's good. You got to be told, you know, that this is where you need to improve, or else how are you going to improve? How are you going to make it to the next level? How are you going to take your game to that next level? You know, my dad was 1,000% honest with me, man. 1,000% honest with Cam. Another thing is we loved it. You know, today's kid have a lot of distractions. They have the phone, they have video games. Women's always been a distraction. You know, whatever is going on in the world and on the internet, that's all distractions. We didn't have that. It was us and this basketball. I slept with my basketball. I love my basketball. I love the game. You know, as you know, the old saying, you got to eat, sleep, drink, shit, basketball. I did it. Cam did it. Our era pretty much did it. You know, even if made it or not, you had dudes that love the game. Some that's still playing now, you know, at my age, still in adult leagues, because we love the game. Like, if you're having an hour and a half practice, you got kids looking at the clock. We didn't look at the clock. Nah, we ain't done. Run it back. I'm not going out on a loss. You know, run it back. It's like, you got to want to compete, man. You got to love it. And if you love it, then it will push you through the hard times, because there's peaks and valleys in this game. I'm not going to say there wasn't any hard times. There's a lot of hard times. I was told I'd never play after 14 years old because I had I grew too fast and my hip grew out of socket, and I had 5 doctors tell me I'll never play again. So I had one doctor that said he'll fix me up. So he fixed me up, put it back in place, put 8 screws in place, my bone bent back together. I was back within 9 months. First year back, averaged like 25 to 28. That was my sophomore year, so I missed my whole freshman year. My junior year, I averaged 31. My senior year, I averaged 44.3. And it was sitting there. The journey back, the mental toughness. You know, everybody's talking about mental health. You know, we had it too. We're just from the suck it up generation. You know, no, you better suck that up. Nobody's trying to hear that. Get out there. If you're gonna play, go play. You know, go get out there and go compete. That's what my dad was about. Get out there and go compete. Nobody trying to hear no excuses. We have no excuses allowed in our program. No excuses. Parents allow these kids to have excuses. We don't have excuses. Not in Prodigy, not in Prodigy Prep, not in Prodigy Girls. No excuses. If you got your ass kicked, you got your ass kicked. Now back to the drawing board, get back in the lab, and let's get to work. You know, no excuses. Well, I wasn't feeling good. Well, you wasn't feeling good, you shouldn't have played. I had 50-point games sick. I'm not trying to hear that. You know, at the end of the day, you know, if you love the game, you don't allow yourself excuses, you have a good work ethic, and you allow people to tell you the truth, you can do something wherever area you're going in.
I like that. Going to that mental toughness, the only story I'll share is when I was little, kind of same thing, slept with the ball, studied the grades, watched film, and my mom used to take me to the park. And she would beat the shit out of me every single day. Like, today,
sounds familiar.
Right? Today, like, that's illegal, but she would just do it, and she would just call me all kind of names. And one day I was crying, and I was like, why? Why do you take me here every day to just beat the shit out of me? And she's like, I'm preparing you, son, so you can work on everything, but when the refs don't have your back, or when people are calling you names out in the stands, like, how can you take it then, you know? And I think, do you guys focus on mental toughness? And
we talk about it, but it's like, as I say again, these kids aren't built like that. You know, they're not built like that. Kayla's built like that. CJ's built like that. Malia gives me a look every now and then, like, whatever you're saying, you know. But, you know, she's not going around crying from what I said. You know, Tiana wants to fight me. She's my 9-year-old. Whenever I say something, she's got to control her anger. That's her problem. If she controls her anger and she dials that back and be willing to learn, then that's when she's gonna flourish. You know, but she's a baby in the game. She's just starting. You know, she wants to win. She wants to be the best, but she's got to put the work ethic part to work. You know, that's the hardest part for kids at that age, is to know what work is and know that you're working towards something. You know, she wants it right now. That's today's kid. They want it right now. 2 hours? Oh, that's too long, man. I don't want to practice 2 hours. Well, shoot, we had 2.5-hour practices. I've had coaches say, all right, we can either be in here an hour and a half if y'all locked in, or we can be in here 3 hours. What do you guys want to do? You know, and that, to me, though, that's the great coaches. You know, they work. If you're getting it out of them, okay, hour and a half, we're done. You know, get some extra shots, you know, shoot some free throws and get up out of here. But the ones that just crack, and you not getting anything out of it, then that's something else too. You got to know when to let up, because once they mentally check out, you're not getting anything accomplished.
Thank you for watching the very first BanTR podcast. So many more to come, so make sure to follow us. Big shout out to Anthony Miller, Tracy Murray, Rob Mills, JP. My name is Beau Cody, and until next time, everybody, we'll see you soon.